I am so excited today, guys. I have Jaya Jankert. She has a podcast, and I want you guys to go to Spotify, Apple, wherever, and download this now. I was also on the podcast, so there's an episode if you want to know more about my life, but we're going to get into her life today. But the podcast is super simple. It's called Soul Conversation. That's SOUL, Soul Conversations, empowered by Jaya, Jaya. So download that. And then Jaya, I'm so happy to have you. We've been trying to work this out, had some technical issues a few times, but excited to have you on the show today. Can you go a little bit into we're going to get into your life in a little bit, but how do you help people and what do you do with your coaching and stuff like that?
Yeah. And first of all, thank you, Jason. And thank you for having me. And yes, we have had some issues, but that's in the past. So I have kind of two things I do with my clients, or there is a lot, but two main things, which is I'm working with the styling, but not from a fashion perspective, more from who you are as a person and to bring out your unique personality, but also your purpose, actually, the way you dress. And that's one part. But the other part is that I also guide men and women through emotional blockages that they have and heal the healing journey, I would say. So it kind of goes, it flows in between there. But I think it's really important for everyone who's on this journey to find a way to do the healing journey. I know you've been doing it a lot yourself, Jason, so that's also possible. But if someone needs guidance, then that's where I'm at. Then I'm there.
That's awesome. Yeah. And if somebody wanted to have a conversation with you, to do your coaching, what's the best way to get a hold of you? What's your website?
I don't have a website now. So the best way is actually on Instagram. I have links there. So I have an application for one-to-one. And if now I have soul styling program that I will be having guests on or clients on the 19th of August. So there is where you can find the easiest way to send me a message. Yeah.
That's awesome. I wanted to get into your story because I think it's so powerful and it's going to help a lot of people that are out there listening to this, especially women. And I wanted to kind of start, where were you born and raised? With your family? Were you born and raised with a mom and a dad? Where were you, what country were you born in?
I was born in India. So I was born in India in a city called Pune. But then I was adopted here to Sweden, Stockholm, Sweden, where I live now. And been brought up my whole life. And I was only 2.5 months old when I came to Sweden.
Oh, so you were adopted at 2.5. So you didn't know your mom or dad from India at the time?
No. Exactly.
So why did they at 2.5 months old, why did they decide to give you up for adoption?
Yeah, the thing is that the thing I know more and more now that the adoption was not legal, and most of the adoptions in the 60s, 70s and 80s, especially from India, but also from other countries around the world, has not been legal. So a lot of us has been taken and kidnapped or whatever and being sold. And I could just feel that something was off when I was 12, but I wasn't ready to dig deeper into it. Now I start to know some stuff, but it's more that I can actually feel it in my body. No.
Right.
I don't
know your
not
family
yet.
in India?
No.
And so you don't know if you have brother or sisters. You don't know do you know your mom and dad's their original names or any of that?
No, nothing.
Oh, okay.
Nothing.
So you
I only have
you have no memory.
No. Only now
So yeah,
when I had started to do the healing journey. But no, not when I came here.
Yeah, and that's what I want to talk about, because this is so interesting, because there is a lot of people out there that feel the importance of understanding, because especially like materialistic, not spiritual people, not understanding, we've been in lots of different meat suits. So there's this whole idea, like a lot of people would not be able to function properly or have a ton of trauma just based off of not being able to understand their identity and who they were when they were brought up in this world. And I know you went to Sweden illegally and different things like that, but how is, and we're going to get back into the story, but I kind of want to just scoot off the path just a little bit with this.
Yeah.
How has that affected you in your life, not knowing your family, not knowing what happened in India, and just a big question mark at the beginning of your life?
I shut down a lot. Like, it was kind of like India didn't exist. I really wanted to feel that I was Swedish. And I closed off, I would say, a lot of my, like, the trauma in the abandonment wound, because I was abandoned. I just closed that off, like, within me. So I would say it has affected me emotionally, and also how I interact in relationships, and that I am really, really master of surviving. It's not a good thing though, but I mean, it is, because
we'll
I'm
get
alive,
into that.
but
yeah.
it's, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but I also have another side, which has been an optimistic side. So when I talk to other adopted people around me, they have had like more wounds when they grow up in the like in Sweden or different countries, than I feel that I have had. But it's been especially relationship, I would say.
Do you feel like, since there's a big question mark at the beginning of your life, and there's a lot of answers, that need to be answered, to kind of put things in order for you. I know when you were brought from India illegally to Sweden, was the family that you were brought into or who you were adopted to, were they loving when they first, what's your earliest memories of being, were you with a family at that time? Like, what happened when you were brought to Sweden?
I was very welcomed and loved before I arrived here. So my mom and dad had my brother, and my brother is biological. So they received him, but then they couldn't have another child. So that's where they started to, the process started to actually get another child, and then the adoption process, which took a long time as well. But I would say they have always made me feel part of the family. Like, they have never made me feel that I didn't belong, even if I have a different skin tone. And my brother hasn't either. So I have felt that I was really loved when I came here. My first memory is around when I was around 4 years old. And then it was about my skin color.
So you went at 4 years old, you were worried about your skin color?
Yeah. Because
Is it because... Go ahead.
Yeah, I understood that I didn't look like them. And I really wanted to be in the, like, look like them. So I asked my mom, I was like, can I change skin or with you? Or can I don't want to be brown. And she said to me, you know what, Jaya, like, almost everyone wants to be suntanned when they're out in the sun. So you should be proud of your color. Like that's something that most people want to be like, to have your color. And I was like, oh, good. And then I kind of bought into that. And that was okay for me. That was, yeah. So,
did you, as growing up in Sweden, I mean, and it's a developed country like the UK or United States. Did you feel like you experienced racism?
No, I didn't. I was fortunate to not feel that at all. And I think it was like once, but I didn't even know that it was about me. Because I might think that it okay, maybe we should come into this later, but that I don't see of course I can see that you're white and I'm brown. Like that's, of course I see that, but I don't care. Like I honestly don't care. So I think I had some kind of, within me, how can I say, a confidence that it didn't matter. I don't know. I think I kind of radiated that.
Did it matter? Like when you started going to school and stuff like that, did people make fun of you about it or anything of that nature? Or was school very accepting?
School was accepting, but elderly people in Sweden could say like, oh, they could really be, oh, you speak really good Swedish. And I know when I was a teenager, I felt that I wanted to belong. So in that terms, I somehow wanted to fit in more when I was a teenager. I don't know if it was necessarily the skin tone, but it was feeling different. That kind of feeling that I felt different than the rest.
So when did you start feeling different? Was it 12, 13, or was it earlier?
I think it was around, you nailed it. I think it was around, I was like 11, 12, something like that. Around that age.
Now, before you were 11 or 12, was there ever a time that were you raised in a spiritual household? Were you thinking spiritual things? Were you attracted to spiritual things? Or was that later in life?
No, not particularly at all, I would say. But so we didn't go to church or anything like that. But I felt that, I think when I had questions, they tried to answer it as, as good as they could, my parents, I mean. But not spiritually. No, I wouldn't say that. Now it's different, but that's part of the story later on. Now it's a little bit.
Yeah. So back then you didn't. So growing up, normal child, normal experiences in the Swedish schools, just living your life, and then 11 years old, you're like, I'm different. When you say I'm different, what were some of the self-doubts, and some of the things that you were having at 11?
The main was that I wasn't good enough, and that I felt that I wasn't good enough in a lot of things, I would say. Like I was comparing myself to my friends, how they looked. So somehow it was about the skin color as well, I would say. But also that I could feel that I wasn't skinny enough and I was pretty thin. So but I was early matured, so I kind of covered my body a lot. So that was something that I felt ashamed of. But it was the core was really that I didn't feel good enough within me, just being me.
And were your friends supportive? Were they kind of mean to you? You know, when you're 11, 12, going through those awkward stages, did you have like boys say mean things to you or anything like that?
No, but they could comment, not so much the boys. I was spending time a lot with the boys from high school, I would say. But I had a group of friends that were girls, and they weren't, but they would treated me like one of them. But it was something within me that was, I don't like the word broken, but that felt, I mean, wounded. I like that word more. So
you're 11 years old and you're spending time with high school boys.
Yeah. No, that was later. Sorry, that was later. So I was more with the boys later on, because I felt it was much easier to just be me. They didn't care. Like, we were playing, like, you know, football or something like that. I kind of liked that, their energy. It was much more easy. Yeah. So that was later.
Was this I'm not good enough? Yeah. Was the I'm not good enough? Did it translate into like your first relationships in school and different things like that? What was it? You know, did it interfere with like personal relationships in the beginning?
Yeah. Insecurities. I would say I went in the teenager. I was pretty rebellic, and I lied a lot, and I did a lot of stuff. I think as well, Jason, that the only thing I wanted to feel was loved and accepted for who I am. But I wasn't always standing in my truth and, you know, set my boundaries. I didn't.
Right. Yeah. So here you are, you're 11, you have this realization. Go ahead.
Yeah. I stood up for others. If someone was picking on someone else, I easily went up in the whole classroom and like defended other people. I did that in an early age. I think I was 8 or 9 when I started to do these kind of things, and to speak, to use my
like
voice.
You were bold.
Yeah,
you were a bold person.
So it was like an instinct.
You would advocate
but
for
not
others.
about me. Yeah, for others.
Mm-hmm.
For others.
Right. Do you feel like that? Because I've had this happen with people, and this is a realization I've had too, is that, and maybe you were doing it, you know, innocently, but for me, a lot of times the advocacy would just to get me noticed. So it was still narcissistic, even though the act seemed like it was great. It was really selfish ego, because I wanted to be like, look at me, look what I did, pay attention to me, you know. So I would use so-called service to others and you know, humility, all of it, but it was all fake, because all I wanted was attention. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally. I would say for me it was an instinct. So kind of the body reacted before I opened my mind, but I didn't. I mean, I was pretty, I think you say in English, cocky. I was pretty like,
cocky.
I wasn't that nice all the time. I could be pretty tough sometimes. So
pretty forward.
Yeah, pretty forward. Absolutely. So I mean, from the other end, receiving it, I don't think they felt so. I wasn't that. I didn't know how to do it.
For people that are here in the United States, right? People here in the United States don't understand Swedish people. It's totally different. Like we can embrace that type of personality that you have here in the United States, because we have more of an entrepreneurial, independent, cowboy, Western type, you know, rugged individualism. So that's accepted. In where you're at, most people aren't bold, that strong and bold. They are in other ways, but it's kind of more stoic, probably, huh?
Yeah, and they don't want to, generally speaking, they don't like confrontations or to, they are more, I would say, withdrawn than, if you would come here. Have you been in Sweden?
Yeah,
Have you
a
been
long
there?
time ago, but I've been there.
Oh, okay. Then I mean, it's not so easy to come if you would come here and like just be you. It's not that easy. I would say maybe now, but when you were, I don't know, 12.
Yeah, as a child or a teenager.
Yeah, as a child.
So you were naturally an advocate, even younger. You're bold. You have a very strong feminine personality. Was it feminine or more masculine?
Oh, I would say definitely both. But I think it was both. But then it changed to more masculine because I put up like a wall around me. So that came later on.
How old were
I would say.
you? How old were you when you started building the wall?
I think that I always had it because not many people, even today, actually know me, like really know me. I have a very few that I really let my guard totally in, and my heart. Oh, sorry, but I might have been 13, maybe around that age, 13, 14. I think, but people would also say that I was an
so did
extrovert.
Right. So do you feel like high school was bad or good for you?
It was okay, I would say. Not bad, but not. It was a lot of drama with the girls, I would say. So that's why I started to be like hanging out with the boys much more. I never liked school, to be honest, that much. I've never fitted in to school. I didn't like it that much. But let me see now, because high school, when you are in the age 16 to 18 here, it's called gymnasium. And what is that? Is that high school? I'm not sure now because I didn't like
so
that.
like we have high school till we're up to 18, and then after 18 we go to university or college,
Yeah. So before you turn 18, like these 3 years, I would say I was not myself at the time. I didn't felt that I belonged so much, and I was more going inwards. Because at that time I think my low self-esteem really was, kind of under the surface. So I felt that a lot of people didn't like me, and that might not been the truth, but that's how I felt.
Were you, like, you said you were rebellious. So during this 3 years, were you being rebellious, like bad, like doing drugs and drinking a bunch and partying? Were you doing that type of thing? Or?
No, drinking, smoking, and doing some, what do you say? Do you say shoplifting? What do you say if you take something from a store?
Oh, yeah, shoplifting. Yeah, stealing.
So
shoplifting,
no drugs, but no drugs. I haven't ever done drugs, but smoking and drinking pretty early.
So high school, uneventful. Lying. Yeah, of course. Yeah. I think everybody does that. Yeah. But it's like, so then you graduate from high school. Do you go to college? Do you go to university? What happens after you're done when you're 18?
I actually started to like ask myself, okay, what do I want? Because I didn't want to go to university in Sweden. And then instead I went abroad to and had an education at a hotel school in Switzerland. So I knew I wanted to work with people. So I went there when I was actually 20 at the time, 1 year abroad by myself, but I got to know other people, of course. And then I came home and started to work. So I started to work when I was 21 in the hotel industry for 23
Did you like that?
years. Yeah, I did. I really enjoyed it. So it was for,
so
yeah,
you
I
really
think
liked
23
that. So for
years.
23 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. So from 20, you went to the school, 21, you start working, and then you worked in the hotel industry for 23 years.
Yeah. And different hotels and different areas and so on.
What was it? Did you feel like you had at 21, so you're 21 now, you have a job, you enjoy your job. What is life like at 21?
Oh, I actually didn't enjoy the work because it was like working night at a hotel at the central train station in Stockholm. That it's kind of not so. Today it's a good area, but back then in the end of the 90s, it was not a good place. But I learned so much. But there were like so many strange people coming into this hotel, and I was working night 1.5 years. So I started really rough, but I think that was good as well because I had to toughen up a little bit. Like I learned a lot, and after that it was more 4-star hotel and completely different, I would say.
So you said you had a lot of British coming in there. How did they treat you? Were they racist with you at all or not?
No, actually not. There were different, always different cultures. But at just the hotel, when I was working night, it was like one person came in and had like blood they had taken like some kind of drugs and went into the, bathroom. There were hookers. There were it was a crazy place. And I was very naive. So it took me first like, okay, I don't dare to do anything. And then it was like, I'm calling the police. So I had to, because we had to do it. We were there like by ourselves in the night. It's crazy. It was crazy. But very educational somehow. I learned a lot.
So when did you start feeling like, was there any point from 21 forward, was there any point where you weren't liking your job or you started feeling depressed or, I'm not good enough? Did that start to manifest at any point?
Yeah, I would say it manifested the way I used to party and use alcohol and to meet boys and stuff like that when I was single. I think it was underlying all the time because I was searching. I've always been searching for something outside of me. And but alcohol and partying was like, and especially in that industry back then was a lot of, we went out a lot. So I think it wasn't until the age of, let me see, end of 20s, beginning of 30. But then I have met my children's dad. But before that, I went abroad by myself and did some stuff. But I had some rough relationships as well. I had one alcoholic.
Were you attracted to bad guys, or were you Like, what do you mean rough relationships? Was there a pattern of abuse or alcoholism? What
Pattern
drew
of,
you to those type of men?
I would say it was a pattern of rescuing someone else. Like kind of, can I fix him? That kind of behavior. So I knew pretty early that he was not in a good place. He had a big heart, but he was drinking a lot. And then I realized he's an alcoholic. So I stopped drinking. So I was codependent with him. And he wasn't mean, but he was drunk. Like he was drunk a lot during daytime and evenings and stuff like that. And then before him, I had a good relationship with someone that I grew up with. So that was a good one. But when I attracted in the other person, it was, I felt back then, I know I choose him because that is what I thought I was worth. And he's not alive today, so I don't want to say something like he had a big heart. It's part of the journey. I don't want to talk shit about him at all. But I would say that I chose him from my wounding completely. I did.
That makes sense. A lot of women do that when it comes to, and men too, but a lot of women do that when it comes to they don't feel good enough, they don't like their body, and then they do this outside searching. So you can actually like trying to help a man, you can kind of gain an identity and you can kind of you get to be somebody. And then it's also kind of like for me, when I've been in situations like that too in my life, and I look back at it and it's kind of like, oh, they're not as bad as me. I'm pretty bad, but they're worse than me. Like secretly, like in my head, I'm like, oh, at least I'm not as bad as they are. So it kind of made me feel a little bit better because I hadn't handled, when you said outside searching, I like that. What could you in your 20s, 30s, did you understand what you were searching for or not really yet?
To be honest, now when you're asking it, I think I was searching for dopamine. Like a feeling of rush, like a feeling of I didn't even know what love was, to be honest. I didn't. So I thought I knew, but I didn't. My heart was closed. It wasn't open. So I remember it was a pretty desperate energy I had that I was sending out. And I really didn't, my self-respect was not high. But I could also sometimes pretend that I was confident. But I wasn't. If that makes sense.
Well, that's what you did
like
in
a
school, right? You were confident, outspoken.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you're in your early 30s. You've met a man. When did you first have your first child with him?
I was 35. So.
So you knew him. How long did you know him before you guys had a child?
Let me see. We were together. We met 2004. Yeah, six years after.
That's a long time. Were you guys on and off? Was it not a good relationship? What happened during those first 6 years?
No, he was much younger than me. So he was 7 years younger than me. So he was only 21 when we met and I was 28. So that was why, but I wasn't ready either. And we got married after 4 years. And then we started to talk about children. But back then, we weren't that, I would say from both ends, that happy at the time. But we still started to talk about having a child. So
then you get married, you are together for 6 years total. 2 years after you're married, you have a child.
Yeah. And
did that change you at all? Did it start to feel different? Like what happened then?
Yeah, I would say that my heart opened much more, and I felt, the thing is, as a mother back then, I knew that I had to take care of myself first. And with that said, it's not that I remember when she started to eat, like, baby food. I knew that if I was hungry, I needed to feed myself, and then I could feed her. So I had that within me, but I was also, I didn't know myself back then, because I was pretty closed off back then as well. But she opened up something within me, and I knew before we knew that it was a girl. I felt that this is a girl. I think this is a girl, and I was really happy about that. She's my biggest guide, I would say. My son as well, but she's the older soul in the family. So she's been very much guiding me. She is very powerful. So she was very spiritual, but I was scared of her, like, power a little bit when I looked into her eyes when she was like 8 months. I was like, oh, I didn't want to see that within me. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I've heard a lot of that before.
Yeah.
So so you became a mother. Your heart opened up more. Your heart chakra opened up more. Were you?
Yeah.
How was the relationship going once you had the child? Were you guys had a good relationship?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, both, but I wasn't happy. And I want to say this because I think this is important as well, that I took it out on him. I projected a lot, but it's not his fault. Like, everything it was within me, but I didn't know it back then because I wasn't awakened back then. So I wasn't happy. So I felt trapped. I loved being home with her for 1 year, but then he was supposed to be home because in Sweden, the men get paid as well to be home with the children. We have like a really long period of time that we also receive money and we can stay home. Like, I don't know if it's 180 days or something in total. It's a long time. So, but he had another job, and then I was still home, and then we realized that I was pregnant again. So I was in week 11 when I found out that I was carrying our second child. And I didn't even know. Yeah. I didn't understand.
Wow,
which is,
that's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is crazy. So I was home for 3 years.
And so 3 years with 2 kids.
Yep. And let me tell you, I was
back
not
to back.
happy.
So you had a baby with a baby.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's crazy. Yeah. Yeah, that would make anybody go insane, I think.
Yep. And I think for me...
So did you fall in any type of... Go ahead.
No, but I think for me, I started to be so resentful, and I was angry, and I remember I was out with this stroller and I kind of, on the evening, or, when it was dark in Sweden, in like from November and to March, it's really dark from like 3 p.m. So I could look into other people's windows and see happy families that I thought were happy families. And I was like, I want that. I didn't feel that I had it myself. So I was not
But
I mean,
you've never felt like you belonged your whole life, right?
no, probably not. No, you're right. I didn't.
You always had this view of these people are on the inside and I'm on the outside.
Yeah. You're right.
So
that's interesting.
So here you are, you have 2 children that are super young.
Yeah.
You're at home for 3 years. You're kind of not happy. You're looking at other people as being happy. You're not. So then that creates, you're outspoken, you're an advocate type. So you're probably, was he Swedish or was he what type of, where was he from?
He's Swedish. And I remember once.
Well, he didn't understand your attitude or?
Yeah, but I think he was patient, but I was so much in my masculine energy. And I remember once when he was like, we need to have a conversation about this and this. Can you please try to be calm and not be so upset and so on. And we like within, I don't know, I think he started the conversation and then I went up, like there was tears. There was like, I went up, I slammed in the door like a teenager. It was like my inner child was really in a, I didn't know it. But so I would say he didn't have like an easy time with me. I really like, I have apologized for my part of who I became, because I became the worst version of me, I would say. That I don't think children should, like having an angry parent that are not so happy. It's not, that
yeah,
energy.
I see this a lot with couples. All the time I see this, and I've had lots of conversations with couples. It's like when the woman's not happy, she gets into her masculine. And then once you do that, the man is like, what the hell is this? I mean, guys are ultra simple, dumb simple, like I'm a guy. They're like monkey simple, like ape simple. So then now all of a sudden so I have this masculine energy in front of me that doesn't respect me. And that's like the worst thing for a man, is to have masculine energy that doesn't respect. Because, men are all about respect. Like they want to respect each other. So masculine energy that doesn't respect you is like a huge threat, and then how do you, most men don't know how to navigate that. And then how do you make a woman feel comfortable enough to where she can be open in her feminine? But for you, you've never opened up to anybody. You said even now you have a hard time with that. So this guy was kind of doomed all the way around. Like he was pretty much, pardon my French, but he was pretty much fucked from the beginning, huh?
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, he was, and it wasn't easy for him as well. I mean, we were too wounded, I would say. Unhealed,
trauma,
whatever you say. Exactly. And we had also, this is also the good part. The good part was that we also was working as a team a lot. We had a lot of fun and we had great communication. But once the children came, it was like I couldn't explain my needs, but I just assumed that he would figure it out. I mean, and of course he couldn't,
right.
Because I didn't know what I wanted. I couldn't, say it out loud. Right. So it's a lot like
it always reminds me of
yeah.
Right. Sorry, we have a huge delay, so I keep interrupting you, and I apologize for that.
Yeah,
it creates like the delay in the internet. It's creating a huge pause. And so then I'm like I'm waiting a little bit. So I just got to wait more seconds. I'm waiting like 2 or 3 seconds before I talk. So sorry about that if I'm interrupting you. But it reminds me of Adam and Eve and the story, the myth story of Adam and Eve in the Bible, where, Eve in a perfect world, perfect garden, Adam's out naming animals, doing his thing. Eve, a serpent comes up on a tree and she's like, well, I'm not happy in the perfect world. Oh, here's a guy. He's going to tell me I can have everything I ever wanted. Takes the apple and then goes to Adam and says, here, eat this, and then he blames Eve, to God when God comes to him. But, you know, he's like, the woman made me do it, you know, that type of bullshit. But it's still funny how there's, even since that myth, that super ancient myth story, how there's always this desire in the chaotic feminine to never be happy in your situation. You know, it's always, I want something more. I don't feel like I belong, you know, and that's that creational feminine energy, you know, it's from the beginning of time. And being able to harness that and become really self-aware what that energy is and how you develop it inside of yourself to use it to massively create. That's a lot of spiritual work. And, you know, most people don't understand that. So a lot of women, I'm glad you're speaking openly about this, because there's a lot of women in your situation, you know, with children stuck in a marriage. They feel stuck, you know, I need an apple. I want something else. I want a serpent, you know?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So so you have 2 young kids. By this time it's probably 8 years of marriage or whatever. Did you have another child, or what happened after the 2 kids?
No, we actually, there was a lot of stuff going on with our neighbors. So there was a lot of also external challenges, I would say. And then we moved to what we thought were our kind of dream home a little bit. Like, so we moved there, but once we were there, I have had subconsciously created, like slowly, piece by piece, created like a decision that I didn't want to continue the marriage. So I think we were only living there 7 months or something, 6 months or 7 months or something in that new place, because after the first summer we had there, we just moved in before the summer, and in August, my daughter, or our daughter, she was 3 years old back then. She looked at me, we were going to the kindergarten, and she looked at me and she was like, "Mom, you're angry all the time." She's very, like, she has been very outspoken, like in her power when she was little, and especially now, but now she's turning 14. But back then, and that just hit me. And I was like, whoa, I don't want to continue being angry. I don't want to pass this on to them. This is like, and in that moment, I made the decision. I can't do this anymore. I need to take care of my behavior. This is not good enough. Like, this is not acceptable. And I can't continue the marriage. So
what do you feel you were angry from?
She was the one setting the boundaries, I would say. Yeah.
What do you feel like you were angry from? Where was the rage coming from?
That I didn't feel that I received, like, emotionally, what do you say? That he could hold like emotional space for me. I didn't feel seen and heard for being me. But I would also say respect in some way, because all of this was lacking within me. So I didn't have respect for myself, of course, because I had projected everything to him. So I felt I was angry. I think I was angry for a lot of stuff that has happened my whole life, but it kind of, everything boiled up, like when I felt trapped and felt that I was home for 3 years without having not working, not doing something else outside of being a mom. Because I've always been Jaya first and then a mother. That's my identity. I've always been that. And you can think whatever you want about that, but I have never had the identity that I'm only a mother. It's not me. It's been Jaya and then a mother.
So you built the wall up in your early teens. Do you think the bricks of the wall, the material that were made out of them that kept people out? You know, I mean, you're always outside searching, but then you're also keeping people outside of yourself through this wall. Was the wall, was it made, do you think the wall's material was made of anger and rage? You know, what was the, what do you think the material was made out of that turned you into this, you know, super angry, unhappy mom?
Now I lost you. Oh, we are back, I think. The internet is not good. Let's see.
Oh, I see you.
What was the last thing? What did you, can you repeat?
No, I
was
just saying when you, yeah. When you look at the wall that you built as a young teenager, what do you, the materials that were made of those bricks, was it anger? Were you, do you kind of be self-aware enough to understand, like, what was it? Was it hurt? Was it, you know, just not getting your needs met? Like always feeling, not that it was actually not getting your needs met, but feeling like no one could ever meet your needs because of this outside searching. Where do you think, because it seems like this wall that you built up keeps screwing you over in each relationship, you know?
Yeah.
So here you are, you know, how old were you in your late 30s when you got divorced? Or
39.
So you're 39 years old, you have two kids, and you're like, I'm done. How did he respond to that?
He was sad. He didn't know what was going on. But on the other hand, he wasn't happy either. That's the thing. So, of course not, because I wasn't like the most loving wife. So he wasn't, but I think it was also for him a shock to, you know, two kids, 3 years and 2 years old, like they were small. So, and I remember I went into being pretty shut down. I was pretty cold. I think that is also some kind of defense mechanism when you have to take like one of the biggest decisions, since the children are involved. Like it's easier if it's only me, but I also have to consider the children. Once I made the decision, and that is very much me, once I made the decision, I stick with it always. Like it's always, you know, solid if it's something important.
I want to, this probably take a couple seconds to think about this and be more self-aware on it. If you had an opportunity right now in this moment to go talk to yourself at 39, to walk up to yourself and say, hey, I'm your future self, what would you tell your 39-year-old self?
I would say to her that you are okay exactly as you are, and you are loved, and you have so much to give if you just like open up your heart and show yourself like it's okay to be vulnerable, and it is okay to actually let in people in your life that will help you to expand, like to a love that I feel today that I absolutely didn't know back then. But but especially that I'm good enough exactly as I am back then, with all the wounding, everything. But I'm still good enough. Yeah.
So here you are, you're 39, you're going through divorce, 2 young kids. What happened then? Were you like, for the next few years, did you get yourself together? Did it turn into a shit show? Was it great? Like, what happened after 39?
It was a lot of logistic stuff going on, because I was like, okay, I don't know where he wanted to move from, where we were living. We were living where I was growing up, outside Stockholm. And I said yes to that. And then we started to talk to be like close, to live pretty close. So the children, it's easier for the children. And then I started to, and this is kind of beautiful how guided we are, because I started to remember, and this is like 6 months. Let me see. We moved like apart in January, and we're talking about 2015. So in May 2014, I was on a some kind of like with colleagues in the hotel industry. We were going away outside Stockholm for kind of team building, and I was picked up in a suburb, and I was standing there waiting to be picked up, and I was like, wow, I really like this neighborhood. I've been there when I was a teenager. It's really nice. So subconsciously, that is where we ended up. So subconsciously, I already knew back then that I was going to move there. So when I started to search, I started to look at this area, and then I was very like, okay, it needs to feel safe. It needs to feel like intuitively good. So it was a small apartment, but I felt that I really want this. And I just sent it out, that energy, and it became ours. But it was a lot, like the anxiety that I had before knowing, it was insane. But I'm really good at, once I made a decision, it's solutions. Like that's one of my, I'm really good at finding and creating solutions. Always have. So I started to ask around for help and kind of guidance. And people always help you if you ask people somehow. I had one friend help me with how to, get the apartment, like how I had no idea how to buy it, like the process and everything. There's so many people out there that can help you with stuff that you don't have to know everything if you ask for help. That's the beauty, I would say, of it.
Did you feel
so
like you were,
people.
How long were you single for?
Oh, then I was single for a very long time. Let me see. I was single from then up about 2015 to 2021 when my twin flame came into my life. So 7 years. My math is not, let me see. Is that 7 years?
Oh, no, that's fine. So we're just like rough ideas. This
Something
isn't
like that.
legal or anything. So,
Yeah.
so for 7 years, you're single. How did you feel in these 7 years? Were you happy? Obviously, you're raising 2 daughters, right? Were they both daughters or daughter and son?
No, it's one son, like one daughter and one son. We actually also was guided to receive the best kindergarten. That was also from the previous one, because this is something that I want to share, because this can be important if someone is listening and they have to move to different places, that if it's possible to still have the child, if they are I'm talking about kindergarten now, to still keep that in one safe environment, so the child could feel safe there, even if there is a move. We did that for half a year or something like that, or more than that, but it was summer holiday as well. So I think that was really good, because then they had one place where they could feel safe, because it is a lot for small children. I mean, not being with both of the parents. So, and then we looked at one kindergarten, and it was kind of the owner, they were knowing each other. Like, I don't know how to say it in English. It was kind of connected with the ones that we choose. So we received 2 spaces there, which was amazing. I remember I was crying because I felt that it was really good energy there and so on, which was very also it felt very safe to know that the children was good taken care of when we started to work and everything. I don't remember your question now. Maybe I was off track now.
No, that's fine. So you're 7 years, you're single, you're working, the kids are going to school, you're having fun. Seems like, are surviving in a positive way. When did you start understanding the spiritual aspects of things?
I think immediately after the divorce, I made a decision to get to know myself. Because before, I didn't particularly want to spend time just alone with myself that much. Most of the time I went to friends and so on. So that was number one. And then I received, because I had received another job. That was actually before the children, but or when they were small, like before the divorce, I mean. But then I met someone there that she had gone to a lot of like therapy and so on. So she started to share some assignments and stuff. And I was like, wow, I will take that and start to implement it. And then there was someone else to share something about attitude, to choose your attitude. So I started to work like on myself immediately, step by step. But the spiritual journey started 2018, I would say, when a lot of other stuff happened in my life from 2017, 17, 18.
Was it bad things? 16, 17?
It was pretty tough. My dad, he had his cancer back, and I was at a working space, a hotel where there was a lot of toxic energy. So I was not happy. He went sick again. He didn't have much time left. And I could choose to be with him his last... we didn't know how much time he had left. But he called me and he wanted me to come out here. It's where I live now. I live on my mom's and his farm. And we had one last night together at the farm, at their house, and talked about everything, and really had a lot of wine and and so on. And he wanted to be able to sleep in his bed. He couldn't walk back then. And somehow, I don't know how we made it, like how much physical force you have, like strength you have, but we managed to kind of bringing up the stair and to the bed. And there was like 2 hours of madness, but also, how can I say, so much, an experience that we shared. I can't even explain, but I also could feel how much strength I actually have when you have to, like when you really, really have to. Of course, I have also given birth to 2 children and one back home by myself, but that's another story. But, and then he went into palliative care, and they thought like he had, 2 weeks left or something, but he didn't want to die. So he kept fighting like for his life somehow, but also he was also very, like, he was happy because he had so many, pain medicine and painkillers and stuff like that. So for 2 months, so his 2 last months, I was spending time with him there, back and forth, and with my mother and so on, and brother as well. But we were there most of the time, which was beautiful, I would say. So,
and then, so that was 2016?
2017, in the beginning of the year.
And then he passed, right?
Yeah.
And then did that was that the bad parts, or what was the bad parts in 2017?
It was actually the work environment, I would say, because even if he passed, I remember the last time as a beautiful time together as well. Of course, I didn't want him to die, but that was what was meant to happen, if I could say that. But it was absolutely the work environment. So when I came back there, a friend of mine 3 months later died in a car accident. And I was I couldn't bring that pain in as well. So I kind of knew I have to deal with that later. So I was very self-aware what I needed. I also said yes to that job, knowing it was not the best energy, but something within me knew that I had to say yes because bigger things was waiting for me on the other side if I said yes to that. So my decisions was very consciously, I would say. And then they fired me, I think 5 months after he died or something like that, because they were like, a lot of people had to go, one after another. And that was the best thing that could have happened for me. I was really relieved, so relieved and happy. So,
and then
it was a lot
during
6 months.
You said something happened in 2018?
That was when, because in the fall in 2017, that was after his death and after I was not having a job, I was like, what do I truly want? Because I wasn't happy working in the hotel industry anymore. And I knew that something else was waiting for me. And I also shared that with my dad before he died. That was actually the first really spiritual experience that we had with our energies, because I could say to him, I felt from within that I will be successful. There will be a lot of, I will make an impact. I don't know what that, but I feel it. And he was like, I know. And then I don't know what I will do, but I just felt that. And then I started to ask the questions like, what do I want? What is fun? What do I enjoy doing? And went for walks and took time being with myself for a couple of weeks, I think it was. And then I found my grandmother's skirts on mom's attic. And one is actually, you don't see it, it's yellow. It's hanging there on the water. And I started to play around. And I was like, wow, maybe I can do something with that. And then it, like on social media, there was something about like a program to be a stylist and personal shopper. And I was like, I want to do this. And then I went in full in. It was a course and I have a diploma in it. But it was the most, like, it was so fun because it came from me. Like, this was something I wanted to do. So,
yeah, that's awesome. And so you 2018, you're doing a course, you're working on that. What is going on? Anything going on, in your life? Obviously you're enjoying this, you're doing that, you're having fun. Spiritually, how were you?
I was still my heart was pretty closed. I was also feeling, because I hadn't healed my root cause to my trauma or anything back then. So I felt confident, but the abandonment and the self-worth and like not good enough was absolutely still at play, I would say.
When did you begin recognizing that you needed to work on that?
It was 2018. I was introduced to Tony Robbins and Les Brown, I think it was. And I started to listen to Tony because back then I started my business And then I was like, I need to know more about like clothing and all of that. So I started to work in a fashion store. So I started to listen to him. Like every time I went to work, like, and before I went into the, like out on the store, I kind of picture it like a stage, and I started to work on my mindset. And I saw the selling in a different way. So I really primed myself with his energy. And it something shifted within me. So that was
you started seeing the worth of yourself.
Yeah. It was very impactful. And then after that, step by step, there was, other people, some friends who were in this personal development like journey, started, listen to Lewis House podcast. And then I listened to this, and I started to be more aware, because I took a lot of, I implemented a lot of what I learned from their knowledge. But it was 2028, not 28, because that's not yet, but 21, that I was attending Tony Robbins' free challenge, and then his UPW. And after that, before that, I think it was, I just knew that I need to do a deep dive. And I saw someone on social media, and I was like, and she was very sensual in her energy, but also very powerful. Like it was, I could feel that. Now I know she wasn't leaking her energy. I know that now, but I didn't know back then. But it was like, this is me. I don't know it, but I'm not there yet. How can I be like her? Like, but within me, I want that. And then I contacted her, and then we started to dig deep, like, and the embodiment work, and feminine and masculine energy, and sensual energy, and oh shit.
Did you, and then at this point, like 2021, you're like really feeling alive, feeling like you're coming, to yourself. How are your kids responding to this?
They were happy, because I promised myself as well to share with them everything that I learn. And I also made a decision to show my feelings and emotions to them, but to explain. If I was crying, I was explaining to them why. So they didn't think that it was, about them or their fault. So that was something that, because I wanted them to have like this bond, being teenagers later on, that they could come to me and not be lying. I didn't want them to be me when I grew up. So they responded, they were curious. They were actually on, we were on camera at one event, jumping, around there, me and my son. So they were a little bit with me as well, I would say. So I was explaining as much as I could what was going on and so on, and sharing with them.
That's awesome. Yeah. So that's great. So when did you start feeling like you had a call to help others in this arena?
Oh, it was, I would say it was when my brand was born in the dressing room, when I was working at the fashion store. I realized quickly that the women who came for the clothes, it was all about psychology and to make them feel seen and heard and accepted, because I could always see something beautiful in another person. So that is what I did. And then I found clothing so they could like look themselves in the mirror and were like, wow, I didn't know that I could like look good in this. They started to like themselves just a little bit. So that's where my brand was born. So 2018, I would say it started like step by step.
And now I want to get into this as we close, because we're over an hour.
Yeah.
Whenever you help a client, somebody's listening to this, they want to have a conversation with you. What are some of the things that you do with your client? Like, how do you start that process? I know obviously we're going to put the links in the show notes so they can click on those. But what are some of the things that you help people with?
I would say I help them with feeling confident, the way they dress. It have to come from within. So I'm also working and guiding them so they can stand in their truth, using their voice, but also from within themselves. So there is a lot of healing work taking place as well. And I work a lot with healing the traumas they have, and also feminine and masculine energy, to balance the feminine and masculine energy that we all have within us. Because after that, I really have been deep diving and healing my abandonment wound and other stuff. So for me, it's all about, the more I lead myself in the journey, the more space I could hold for other people. Because
yes,
I've been through a lot of abusive and a lot of stuff in past lives. That's where my darkness has been. It's past lives. The really dark stuff. So I'm not afraid of
and
emotion.
I think a lot of people don't even realize that. Yeah.
No.
Exactly. So your podcast is Soul Conversation. If people enjoyed you, I encourage people to sign up for your podcast, Soul Conversations, empowered by Jaya. And then what was your Instagram again, so people can make sure they DM you?
Yeah, it's my name. So it's Jaya Jankert in one word. So in one word.
Okay, and we'll have your Instagram link also in the show notes so people can click on that. I encourage everyone to do that. Jaya, it's been a privilege. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for being an open book. I know it's really hard to do that. And you can tell all the work that you've done, and thank you for helping others in this process. I feel like everyone's doing this outside searching. And I heard Peter Crone. He said this morning. I was listening to him. He's amazing. If you haven't heard of him, or if you have, I don't know. But he said two things. People, I always ask people, do you want a perfect body, or would you like to have inner freedom? And he goes, most people want inner freedom, Yeah. And so he goes, well, then that's what we need to work on first, and I love that, because you've always been outside searching. You've always, not now, but you understood who you are, abandonment issues, having this anger, not understanding it, never being happy with the situation that you're in, like all of these things. And then you were able to alchemize all that and be able to understand who you are, as a woman. And I think that's beautiful. And that's an example. That's why I want to go through your story, because that's an example for so many people that are out there, that they can do the same exact thing, like in their lives. So last words, Absolutely. Any last words you have for our audience before we go?
Okay. One thing is that I have a saying, which is magic is created through love when we dare to be ourselves, because it's all about love. We are love.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Yes. That's it. That's amazing. Well, thank you, Jai. I appreciate you being on the Higher Density Living podcast today.
Thank you so much.